So in this video I'm going to show you how to set up a webhook to receive event notifications from Unbounce and use those notifications to create tickets in Zendesk. So Unbounce is a service for creating landing pages, and Zendesk is a support service. Within Unbounce itself there's a number of third-party integrations to services like MailChimp, Aweber and Zoho CRM, but it also provides these what they call basic integrations, and one of those is a webhook integration. So basically with this you can put in a URL, a HTTP URL to which the events are sent to. So whenever someone puts data in onto the landing page, that URL will get notified of it, so the data will get pushed there. So we've set up a landing page just using one of the default templates within Unbounce. So it's just a template for creating an appointment to see an apartment. So you put a username or your name, email address and some other information. So with that then we're going to set up a webhook in Weave so that whenever data is put on that landing page we're going to create a ticket in Zendesk. So the first thing we need to do is obviously create the integration. We've sort of started that process here. And for the input we're going to use a receive webhook. So receive webhook is basically where Weave sets up a HTTP endpoint to which third-party services can post events to. Now there's another type of webhook as well supported by Weave, which is a polling webhook, which basically is the reverse of that, is where Weave actually calls out to a service to try and get data from it. So it calls out their polls periodically to get the data. But we're going to use the receive webhook in this integration, and the target service is going to be Zendesk. Okay, so we're going to create tickets in Zendesk. So the next step we need to do is create configure the webhook. So configuring a webhook is fairly straightforward. The main part that you need to do is, and the most complicated part I guess, is the fact that you need to specify the actual message structure. So you need to tell Weave what is the data, what the data looks like, the data that's going to be received on the webhook endpoint. Now that can be tricky enough, but we've provided a simplified way of doing this, or a way that basically you can get the source service, or in this case Unbounce, to actually specify or send a sample piece of data to Weave, and Weave captures that, and then you can use that to actually simplify this process of specifying the message structure. So to do that you just basically press this green button here that says capture sample data from the source service. Okay, and what it does is it straight away provides us with a number of steps that we need to complete. So the first step is to take the URL that it provides here. So we copy that by just pressing Command C or Control C, depending on the operating system you're using. And then we go over to Unbounce in our case, but it could be any other service. So it could be GitHub or HipChat or whatever you like. And we go into the webhook URL configuration here, and we paste that URL in there. Okay. Press continue. Okay, so this is setting up the webhook in Unbounce. Now there's a settings here to map the fields. We don't really need to do anything there though. Okay, so just click done on that. So that's the webhook set up in Unbounce. So now we go back over to Weave again for a second. Now we're ready to actually capture some data from Unbounce. So we're going to basically press this button now. And now it's giving us the next steps. It says capture waiting, complete steps 4 and 5. Now as you see at the bottom here, it has in red writing that not to close this window here, because if we close it, it'll stop waiting for the capture. Okay, so step 4 is basically to go back to the source service. So we have to go back to Unbounce and put in sample data into the landing page and send it, and Weave is going to wait for that data and capture it, and then we'll have the data structure that the Unbounce form is going to be sending to us. Okay, so if we just open that landing page now, go back here, put in some data. On 12 noon on Tuesday. Okay, so if we slide this across here for a second, and before because we want to see this, so you should notice that when we press the commit, this dialog on Weave should actually disappear. Okay, So as you can see, Weave has now captured the data. So this is the message structure that's coming through that we've captured from Unbounce, or the data that Unbounce sent. So what we want to actually use to send to Zendesk, so the data we want Zendesk to see is actually, we don't want to see all of this, we just want to see the actual data JSON fields, or the fields inside in here. And in order to do that, we just go down here and we basically specify that part of the structure in the configuration. That basically just tell that, so then when we go over and if we want to create filters or whatever, we'll only see those fields that are in that part of the message coming from Unbounce. Okay, so we don't actually want any filters now in this case. So let's go to Zendesk now. So we have an account set up on Zendesk, and we're going to create a ticket, and we're going to map the fields. So now we should see the fields coming through from so we're going to create this and insert the fields. So as you can see here, these are the fields from and just leave it at that. Say priority normal. You can fill out the fields whatever way you want there, and that's the integration ready to go. So if we start that now, it's going to run on my account now on Run It Cloud, on our container on Run It Cloud. So that URL that's coming back here now is the same, basically should be the same URL as we used in Unbounce earlier, as we configured in Unbounce. So you don't really need to copy that and use it again. So if we just go straight over to Unbounce now again and bring up that window again, we should be able to put in another set of data and it should just work. Wednesday 1 o'clock. That's it there. So if we go back to our integration on Weave, now refresh, you can see this data here. So we can see a new appointment for John Moore. So it's set up the description for us and whatnot. Go over to Zendesk. We've got the new ticket in Zendesk. So that's how we set up a webhook quite easily. And the main point to note, of course, then is when you're setting up the webhook to use the actual capture feature, okay, to capture the data structure rather than trying to figure it out yourself from API documentation, etc.